This is strange. I had a vision a few days ago of a bunch of vultures, and they were gathered at the river at Tampa Bay Church. A bunch of vultures, okay? And this is Pastor Rodney right here. That's what he looks like. If you want to see the devil with his horns, there they are. Devil with his horns. Look at those horns on his head. Okay, my favorite one. And I had forgotten about it. And I was just now looking for the scripture where it says that the elect cannot be deceived. And I know it's in Matthew 24. And then I just glanced at it. And it says, wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Oh, and the verse... And look, it says, for false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. So he's saying it's impossible to deceive the elect. What he doesn't mean is it's possible to have somebody deceived temporarily. Okay? And like, for example, Benny Hinn, he said he repented of the prosperity gospel. So he was deceived temporarily because there's an attempt to deceive the elect. Okay? And same with Creflo Dollar. Creflo Dollar announced that he repented of the prosperity gospel. Okay? And look how it says false Christs, anointed ones. Pastor Rodney is an anointed one. And he tries to take, he basically took the place of Jesus in Eric Gagnon's life. When Pastor Eric Gagnon went to Rodney Howard Browne and said, the Lord told me to launch out and start my own ministry back in 1999, and Pastor Rodney said, don't go, stay here with me. This is Pastor Rodney right here. For those of you who don't know what he looks like, he's the guy with the horns on his head. Here's another picture. Look at that clearly defined horn. I mean, it does get him. It's like so ridiculous, dude. Anybody who thinks I'm just cherry picking images, everywhere he goes, he's got horns on his head. Look at those horns. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I mean, he's a false Christ and a false prophet. God has used him to do miracles in order to try to deceive the elect, according to Deuteronomy chapter 13, to see if you love him. And where the dead bodies, that's the thing is Pastor Rodney, you need to know something. Pastor Rodney, the elect and those people who serve God, they're not going to be deceived by you for too much longer. But the wicked people, the weeds among the wheat, are going to run headlong into your teaching. They're all going to build up money, riches, and wealth for themselves until midnight, until the cry rings out at midnight, and until the hour of God's judgment when Babylon the Great falls and all her wealth, that whore who's riding the beast, where that same place where God says, come out of her, my people, lest ye share in her sins. That whore is a place where God's people are, because God says, come out of her, my people. That's the river at Tampa Bay Church. God is saying, come out of her, my people, lest ye share in her sins. And those who are God's elect, God's real people, they're all going to get a revelation and say, that man, Pastor Rodney, is of the devil. So, and it's pretty clear, but all the weeds and those who are, the Bible talks about how they love not the truth, yet delighted in wickedness. And the Bible talks about how not wanting to endure sound teaching, they gathered unto themselves teachers who were going to teach them what their itching ears wanted to hear. Well, Pastor Rodney is going to end up with a bunch of weeds among the wheat, as his disciples are. His disciples are going to be a bunch of vultures who've gathered around the dead body of the river at Tampa Bay Church, and a bunch of weeds that choke out the wheat, and a bunch of foolish virgins That's all he's going to have left at the end of this thing. So God's going to sustain him. I believe he's going to continue on in money, riches, and wealth. He's just going to lose all the people who are true children of God. And he'll find himself ruler over the devil's kingdom and ruler over the devil's people. And he'll be a Christian who ends up in hell. And he'll be one of those pastors who ends up in hell, just like Daniel Ikachuko said back in 2001. Daniel Ikachuko. He came to the river at Tampa Bay Church and he preached. He had been raised from the dead, and when he died, he went to hell, and he saw pastors in hell who were being cut apart, and they were saying, I'll give the money back, I'll give the money back, and then they got cut up, chop, 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 chop. And then they came back together. Their body came back together, refused back together, and then they said, I'll give the money back, I'll give the money, and then they got chop, 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 and it was continuously over and over happening again. And Pastor Rodney didn't take warning.